Hey guys, what's up? Today I want to share a little bit about myself and my story of sports betting addiction that would eventually blossom into a full-blown gambling addiction. I share my story here online because I want you to avoid making the same mistakes that I did, so listen to my story with the intention of not repeating what I did. Basically, guys, I just want to see you living a better life, and I hope that you can do that by listening to what not to do. I started with daily fantasy sports when I was 18 years old. That, for people that don't know, is like a full fantasy sports season but packaged into one night where you're competing for prizes. In the United States, you can do that at 18. So as soon as I had the ability to start, I was hooked. I thought that the more I knew about sports, the more I would make, well, gambling on it. Essentially, that's what I was doing. With a daily fantasy sports contest, basically what you're doing is you're given a set budget, and each player around the league is designed to value. Then you pick a team with your budget, given the constraints, and you have the team that you're competing with against all of the other teams. When I look back and I think about the progression of my sports betting, it really started with this intense love for the sports that I was watching. It was baseball, basketball, football, and tennis. I loved to watch them. I loved to play most of them. So I thought the more I knew about sports, the more time I spent studying the players, studying the lines, the trends, the statistics, the game itself, that the more I would make gambling on it, or at least at that time playing daily fantasy sports. That just isn't how it went. But in the beginning, it did feel that way because I was winning. And I was convinced that not only was I a great gambler, but that I was so knowledgeable about the sports that I was betting money on that I could only get better from there. I thought, wow, if I'm winning money right now, I'm only going to win more in the future. And when you're 18 years old and you're working jobs that are paying $8, $9 an hour, and you're able to go and win a bet for, say, $50 or $100, it's incredible. It's such a rush. And you start to think to yourself, wow, I just won enough money for 2 days worth of work. Why would I ever stop doing this? Why would I ever work again if I could focus on getting better at this? And though I kept working, maybe not by my own choice, I really did think I was going to get better at gambling. And so I kept going and going and going. And there would be wins. But eventually, I started to lose because it wasn't ever about how much I knew about sports. I was getting lucky in the beginning. And as time went on, reality caught up, and I started to experience losses. Now, when you're developing a gambling addiction, you're not going to recognize the danger of it when you're winning. Because no one would, no reasonable person, right, would think, wow, I'm winning so much money, I should stop this. It doesn't make sense as a reasonable thought. Now, what's the reasonable thought would be, I'm winning so much money because I'm getting lucky. But I fooled myself into thinking completely the opposite. I thought that it was skill-based. I thought this was investing, basically, and that I could only continue to improve at it as I honed my skills over many repetitions. The losses started coming in at such a velocity that it was shocking, and I went into debt rapidly. Now, how did this happen? I started gambling, and it was a couple dollars on a game, and by the time that I started going into debt, I was gambling roughly 50 to 100 times what I had originally been betting. How did that happen so quickly? Well, now looking back, I understand that as you're developing a gambling addiction, you're also building up a tolerance towards the amounts that you were gambling. Essentially, a tolerance is, hey, I used to bet $1, but that doesn't do it for me anymore. Now I have to bet $5. And of course, I'm using arbitrary amounts because I don't actually share the amounts that I was gambling here on my account. I have a really specific reason for that. And it's because if I say that I lost more money than you, your immediate thought's going to be, wow, he's so much worse than me. I can keep going until I get that bad. So I don't want to give people a reason to go back. Anyways, that was a quick aside. Back to the point. So basically, when I was gambling, I was building up this tolerance, and I had to bet more and more and more to get that same feeling, that same thrill that I had originally got, that same excitement. And then suddenly, one loss could wipe out almost all the previous winnings. When you follow it along this path of increasing your bet size, as someone who's getting addicted to gambling, it's only a matter of time until your wins become future losses. That's what's so dangerous. And now a lot of people are probably thinking to themselves, why don't you just bet less? Or why don't you just use bankroll management and bet the same sizes? Let's dive into each of these issues real quick. A gambling addict cannot gamble less because we're not gambling for the money. We are gambling for the thrill, as I mentioned vaguely a little bit earlier. What does that mean? Well, money for us is our fuel to get high. A gambling addiction at its base, at its root core, is us using gambling to feel differently. Now, there's many reasons why you would do that, but for me, I used it as a sense of purpose and a sense of competition. And through learning more about sports, I felt like I was studying, like I was improving, and that I could see the tangible result of my actions based on how much I won. It's just a trap, because this is the one area where no matter how much you study, the odds are just rigged against you, and you're not going to come out on top in the end. The other side of things, the bankroll management side, say you're using a system where you only bet one of your units per game. That's still not a way to be profitable, but it's something that I couldn't have done very well as a gambling addict who was gambling for the thrill. Essentially, when you use that strategy, you're just spreading out your losses over a longer period of time, which is a better thing than what I was doing. There's no arguments there. But basically, guys, there is no way for you to continue gambling and have it be profitable in the long run. I'm sure these comments are already filled with people who are saying, this is an exception. This is an exception. What about this? Your lack of education on this topic is showing. And guys, I've been through it. I honestly understand where some of those comments come from. But what it is delusion. It's us telling ourselves that X, Y, and Z things are going to be profitable because we want them to be. And seeing someone online drop a like on it confirms that in our own head. It creates a feedback loop where you say something, someone agrees out there, so you think you must be right. I'm here to tell you today that sports betting and gambling in general is not profitable, because let me tell you what happened after I started going into debt. I continued to gamble for 5 more years. During my active gambling addiction, I was gambling for 6 years, pretty much 6 to 8 hours per day on average, without failure. When you spend every single day gambling like that, you're putting yourself at risk quite often. And over that 6-year period, through ups and downs and working many jobs, I found myself in debt 6 times, where I had to get a second job just to avoid going bankrupt. When you are that young and you're working 70 to 80 hours a week, most people look at you and think, wow, he must be saving hard to buy a house or pay for college. No, I was saving up just to pay down debts that I made chasing a big win. That lifestyle was chaotic. It was meaningless. It was not worth it. And if you're experiencing any of the same things that I was feeling, don't keep putting yourself through this. What's the point? Why are you doing this? I used to say it was to get the big win to change everything. But what would have really changed? Would I have stopped if I had a huge win? I had huge wins. They never stopped me. All a win is to an addicted gambler is a loan from the casino that you're going to pay back with interest with your continued play. Do not be fooled by anything you see online telling you to continue to gamble because it's profitable. If you go down that path, you will lose your money. That doesn't mean you'll get addicted to gambling like I did, but you're not going to come out a big winner like you're telling yourself. Now, if anything that I've said today really resonates with you, I please ask you to smash that subscribe button so that you can continue to learn from my experience and avoid going down this path. People ask me all the time, why did I start a channel about this? You're talking about all the worst things you ever did with your life. And it's because when I think back to when I was 18, if I saw a video like this, I don't know if it would have made me stop gambling, but it would have made me aware of what might happen if I continue for too long. And maybe that would have saved me a year or 2 years of that 6-year period. I want to do the same for you. I'm not here to talk you out of doing something that you love doing. I'm here to tell you that if it starts to become something that you don't love anymore, to let it go. My name's been Rob. I'm going to continue to make videos on this topic, and I hope that you're going to join me for the ride. I know that we can keep getting better together, one day at a time.